early morning hours of February 1st. That becomes important in the timeline to kind of keep in mind. The scene is odd. I got there the second day. And
like actually to her house?
To her house, yes. And just to orient people too, this isn't like a super suburban neighborhood where the houses are close together, they're close to the street. Tucson is very vast, it's very desert, and this is the Catalina foothills area. So these homes are older, they're set back further in the lots, there's a lot of desert brush, there's a lot of cacti.
Yeah.
So when it's dark in that neighborhood, it is dark. There's no street lights. And if you have cameras on your home, they may not be able to see what's on the street, just not only because it's pitch black, but also because they're far away from where the street is.
Yeah.
So knowing that she was possibly taken in the middle of the night, it was like, okay, that could be something you could get away with in this neighborhood. But weird factor number one when we got out there was the fact that you could walk up to the scene. And I remember thinking this was odd. The Pima County—
You could walk up to the scene?
I literally mean the sheriff's department gave us the okay at that time to walk up to the driveway and look at the front door. And that became a key in the investigation because there were drops of blood on the front porch. And you could very much see what it was. And all of a sudden, us reporters who were out there are like, oh, okay, something's off here. And not just that.
Did they not see the blood?
They did. They did. But at that point, the Pima County Sheriff's Department said, we're investigating, we've collected all the evidence, the scene is secure. So it's clear. It said, just don't go into the back.
Secure or released? Like they've released the scene?
They did release the scene.
Okay.
Right, yes. So there was, all they had basically at that point was the sheriff's deputies were kind of like going back up and down the street. At this point now, there's a lot of media that had gotten there. They just said, don't go to the backyard, which we wouldn't do anyway. So I remember thinking that was kind of odd. Like, why are we allowed on this already if she's still missing? It's only been a couple days at this point. But the other key thing about that was the Nest video camera was gone. And obviously, you're thinking, well, what did that catch, right?
Yeah.
And
on January 31st, 2026 at 11:33 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, an anonymous tip line submission was logged at the servers of a local Tucson news station. It began with 9 words: "Hello, Savannah. We have your mother, Nancy. She is safe but scared." This was not a message sent to a family's private email. It was a public relations strategy weaponized. Within 48 hours, a second correspondence arrived, carrying a clinical, almost bureaucratic tone shift. She perished shortly after she was taken. She is buried in nature now. The language is not emotional, it is operational, and it reveals everything about the anatomy of a modern abduction. Imagine a glitching digital billboard on a dark highway. That is the Bitcoin wallet address provided in Ransom Note 1. It was supposed to light up with 4 million in untraceable cryptocurrency by a 500 p.m. deadline. Instead, the only light that ever touched that public ledger was a negligible test transaction, a whisper of data sent by authorities with an attached plea: "We are ready to talk." The screen stayed dark after that. The billboard is now a tombstone, displaying a string of 34 alphanumeric characters that lead to a dead end, a silent monument to a plan that fractured on impact with reality. Before we go deeper into what the documents actually show, make sure you're subscribed to Endless Cryme. Because we don't just cover the story, we follow the evidence. Exhibit A is the temporal architecture of the threat. The first note imposes a brutal schedule: a 7-day maximum hold, a 12-hour release window upon payment, and a final clinical declaration if the payment is not received by the last deadline on Monday the 9th at 500 p.m. This is precision language designed to trigger a very specific response in a former federal prosecutor. It is a hostage negotiation textbook applied cynically. The author demands 4 million, then 6 million, denominated explicitly in USD. That acronym is the first linguistic fracture. An American native demanding a ransom on US soil doesn't typically specify the currency in an international trading shorthand. It's a redundant signifier like saying water, the wet kind. It points to a transactional mindset, a user of global exchange platforms translating a demand into what they perceive as universal legalese. Then comes the second note, the pivot point where the plan detonates. The tone doesn't evolve, it flatlines. We did not fully grasp the seriousness of her physical conditions. We never intended to hurt her. That was not our intention. The phrasing is a masterclass in post hoc liability mitigation. It's the language of a terms of service violation, not a murder confession. She is buried in nature now. That clause is not a euphemism for grief. It is a logistical status update, a shipping notification for a human being who became a cargo problem. They could not show proof of life. That is the cataclysmic failure state at the center of this scheme. A pacemaker logs its final telemetry. A mother vanishes, and the kidnappers, whoever they are, suddenly hold a high-value asset that has depreciated to zero, becoming an infinite liability in a desert jurisdiction. The official response machinery went haywire immediately, creating a parallel disaster in evidence preservation. The Pima County Sheriff's Department released the crime scene within a couple of days.
So I'm going to read you part of it. This is how it started. "Hello, Savannah. We have your mother, Nancy. She is safe but scared. She will be held for ransom, and once payment is received, she will be released unharmed. We will be holding her for a maximum of 7 days. So they go on then to demand the millions of dollars, and they give the 2 deadlines. But what is key here, I think, is that the money was demanded in USD, so US dollar. Typically, if this is coming from somebody here,
You don't say that.
you don't say that, which is key for this theory we're going to talk about later in the episode.
So they're saying they will only hold her for 7 days.
For 7 days, right. Then they get pretty demanding and snarky with how they address Savannah. And mind you, that's also important, right? They're addressing just Savannah.
Yeah.
They don't say the Guthrie family. Hello, Savannah, we have your mother.
We always wondered if it was like about who she was,
Right.
or did they just happen upon her not knowing that it was going to garner this attention? But it seems like this was about, or they at least like not necessarily about Savannah, but they knew Savannah had money.
Yes.
At a minimum.
I think, so Savannah, I believe, was obviously, the target of where we would get the money from if you were the person who was targeting this. And I think there's a reason maybe why they targeted her. I'll get into that too.
Okay.
I'm going to read you 3 more parts of this ransom note, and then we'll kind of talk about it after. So this is what it went on to say. Once payment is received to the Bitcoin address below, she will be released within 12 hours of deposit to a safe drop-off location back in Tucson. If the payment is not received by the last deadline on Monday the 9th at 5 p.m., she will be killed. Your mother is aware of this, and her life is in your hands. It is in the best interest of everyone to have this completed as soon as possible. You will not be able to contact me from here on out. There will be no negotiation. Do not play games. Law enforcement will not be able to help you.
Oh my God.
And then at the very end, they basically give what we learned in the press conference at the time, that there was something only the abductor would know, which was she had a white smartwatch that was on the floor near her bed, like at the foot of her bed. And then there was this floodlight that was destroyed in the backyard. So those 2 clues are what gave the FBI kind of the wherewithal to say,
This is not a hoax.
at least they didn't think so, or they were investigating it as possibly legitimate. They still are, by the way.
Probably also why they kept you guys out of the backyard, right?
Journalists walked up to the front porch, visually confirming droplets of blood, later identified solely as Nancy Guthrie's DNA on the concrete. The Nest video camera, the silicon witness to the abduction, was physically ripped from its mount. The abduction itself immortalized in a video released by the FBI director
In the investigation. That is when the Nest video camera was released by the FBI. So they had been going through trying to mine what they could that was on that camera. Shane and I were heading down to Tucson because we had gotten a tip, an insider saying, hey, the FBI is going to release this. Like, Director Kash Patel is going to put this on his X account, his Twitter account. That is how they released this video. And so we're like scrolling, monitoring.
It's kind of crazy.
I know.
Okay.
Right, yeah. Right. So I'm like scrolling. We're on our way to Tucson. The video drops, and when I tell you, I'm watching these clips, and it is so brazen the way that this person gets to the home that it like sent chills down my spine. Like, you're looking at this and you're like, oh my God. Like, this is what you see in a horror movie.
Yeah.
This is not...
features an individual in a ski mask moving with what experts have called a sloppy gait, wielding foliage like a confused groundskeeper. The brazenness is cinematic, but the execution is high risk and low skill. It's a contradiction that only resolves if you accept a 2-tiered operational model, a remote intellectual author, and a local, physically proximate executor. One plans in the cloud, the other drags a 90-something-year-old woman into the desert night. They could not show proof of life. This fracture between high, concept planning, and low-level execution points directly to an evolved wrench attack, as identified in a forensic analysis by retired investigator Lisa Miller. A traditional wrench attack is crypto thuggery for the digital age, physically targeting an individual to forcibly extract their cryptocurrency keys. The evolved version is a decentralized kidnapping. The mastermind, likely operating from a foreign node, identifies a liquidity event, a public figure with accessible wealth, and uses a digital reconnaissance footprint to select a soft target. Savannah Guthrie's high-visibility November 2025 homecoming segment for the Today show, where cameras followed her and her mother Nancy to a local Tucson restaurant, inadvertently provided a geolocational and familial confirmation. The target was never Nancy's non-existent Bitcoin wallet. It was the liquid cryptocurrency they would force Savannah to purchase. The local actor, dubbed Porch Guy by the internet forensics community, is likely a transactional hire, a disposable ground asset disconnected from the command node. And this brings us to the national security ticking clock. How many other vulnerable relatives of high net worth individuals are currently being cataloged in databases overseas, waiting for a similar 500 p.m. deadline? We must look at the evidence handling to understand the impasse. Sheriff Chris Nanos engaged in a textual altercation with media at 9:50 p.m. during the critical first week, responding to a DNA evidence query with, "Did you happen to notice the time? Give it a rest." Simultaneously, a jurisdictional custody battle over physical trace evidence flared between the sheriff's private lab in Florida and the FBI's Quantico facility. A black glove found on a nearby roadside yielded the DNA of a restaurant worker, a red herring devouring investigative resources. The mixed DNA profile currently undergoing genetic genealogy inside the Guthrie residence is mired in the forensic quagmire of distinguishing a visitor from a predator. This is a contamination event unfolding in real time, where the chain of custody for the digital ransom evidence remains pristine, rotted through encrypted JotForms and untraceable IP addresses, while the physical chain of custody is fighting for its admissibility in a future court that may never convene. They could not show proof of life. The third act of this ransom protocol reveals the asymmetry of knowledge. If the mastermind controls the communication channel, they know the why, but not the where. They crafted the threat architecture but lost sight of the physical asset. The local actor, Porch Guy, knows the where, perhaps a shallow grave in the vast Sonoran desert, accessible only by the wildlife Nancy once installed her cameras to watch, but may not know the identity or geopolitical location of the person who commissioned the job. If the mastermind has severed the encrypted link to avoid extradition risk, the two halves of the conspiracy are dark to each other. The FBI finds itself arbitrating a negotiation where one party is a ghost in a non-extradition treaty country and the other is a local ghost who might be hiding in plain sight, terrified of a murder charge for a job that was supposed to be a non-lethal digital shakedown. The motive is not sadism. The motive is a failed logistics calculation. Nancy Guthrie's health condition was an unmodeled variable in a spreadsheet that demanded a victim. The apology in Ransom Note 2 is not an apology, it is an abandonment of the project, a closing of the contract, a final severance of the transaction. This leads us to the call to research. The FBI has formally stated on the record that while many of the subsequent emails and communications flooding outlets like TMZ are bogus, one even resulting in a guilty plea for a hoax, two core ransoms remain under possibly legitimate investigative status. The full text of these communiques is not just a narrative, it is a linguistic artifact. Go to the FBI's official Seeking Information poster for Nancy Guthrie, publicly available on their site. Find the distinct phrasing, the deviations from native English syntax, the capitalization patterns. Look at the way the deadlines are structured, the way the word perished is deployed. My question for you to leave in the comments is this: looking at the syntactical anomalies present in the publicly released segments, does this language register to you as a translation artifact from a specific region, or an algorithmic construction designed to mask a local author? Because the key to finding the mastermind isn't in the desert, it's in the grammar of a cold-blooded user manual for a kidnapping. If you believe in following the evidence, not the headlines, like share and subscribe to Endless Cryme and turn on notifications. The document trail doesn't sleep even when the press conferences end.